Today's lesson is how to create a pleated skirt using Adobe Illustrator. Here's an example of what the finished skirt CAD is going to look like when you're done, a front view and back view listed, as well as a zoom view that shows a little detail shot up close of what the pleats look like. Just an example of what a pleated skirt looks like in real life. This is an example of what we're going to draw, as well as the reference for the length to the knee. So it has a waistband, and the skirt, the body of the fabric is a pleated look like you see here. So there's going to be a pleated look in the body CAD. There's also at the back an invisible zipper over here. Zoom view of the pleats, black and white CAD only, and front and back views are listed in this project. Let's get started. So here's my croquis figure, and I want to make sure that window layers is open. And remember to always lock your croquis figure onto layer 2, the red layer, and put a little lock on it so that we don't accidentally grab at it when we are getting ready to draw. Layer 1 is going to be reserved, the blue layer, for all of our drawings other than the croquis figure. Croquis figure is the only thing on layer 2. All right, so when we get started to draw, we are going to check our fill in our stroke box. Our fill should have a no fill color, and our stroke box, we're going to double click on it and pick a pop color that's different. That's different than the actual croquis figure. So let me just fix that again. Okay. So now we're going to draw on our croquis figure, and I want to reference here what I have drawn on my women's croquis figure, where I have it drawn. So here, our black line is our center front line. I drew a half of a skirt, and here's the points. There's one point here, another point right at the hip, and that was a curve line. And then I took another point all the way down to the bottom hem, and that was a curve line as well. So that's what we're going to draw, half a drawing, and then you're going to copy, paste, object, transform, reflect it. We are going to draw, we drew the body of the skirt a little lower below the green dotted line on the waist because we wanted to reserve a space for the waistband, which is going to rest right above that skirt. So that's what we're going to draw, as one full piece. So I'm just going to quickly just draw with my pen tool. Using the pen tool, we're doing a technical flat, not a stylized flat. I'm going to click on one point on the center front line, and I'm going to go all the way over to the hip, but I'm going to click and hold because it's a curved line. I'm going to bend slightly, ever so slightly. You really don't want it to be that dipped. Then release the tool. Take the pen tool, hover over that last point until the minus sign appears, and that means you're getting connecting onto an existing point. And then I'm going to take my next point all the way down to the knee, and I'm going to click and hold and bend back, but I'm going to bend kind of upward. My motion with my hand is actually moving downward on the mouse as I pull the curve line up the body. So really see how it feels when you're working on curve lines, when you move left and right, when you move the mouse down, or when you move the mouse up. You can see the motion that the curve line takes. So I'm actually moving the mouse downward so then I can get the curve line to kind of extend upward. Then release. So release to any arrow key that you want, just to release the tool. So that's really all that's my half a skirt, just actually 3 points made up of the skirt. And what I want to note is that the skirt is a little wide at the kneecap because we need to reserve room to make pleats. So you want to make sure that it's not fitted. You want to actually extend from the waist all the way outward, away from the kneecap, to allow the fabric to have a pleated full look at the bottom. So now that we have our half a body shape, and you're probably wondering, well, wait, we didn't draw the bottom hem. Well, the bottom hem is going to be drawn as a loose piece. We'll get to that in a second. Our half a drawing is actually just this half a skirt we have here. So once you have that drawn perfectly, you're going to do a Command-C, Command-V. That's the copy-paste function, object, transform, reflect, reflect vertical. And now we're going to pull that other half of a skirt next to it. You're going to align it as best as you can side by side. You can use the zoom tool here if you need to zoom in, but as I always like to show, if you can manually align the two halves yourself, but a great way to make sure it's aligned is to take the black arrow and hover over your drawing, go to Window Align, and to window align gives you lots of functions. Let's go vertical align top. And vertical align top will just nudge that other half, and I'll just show you very obviously what it's going to do. See how it just nudged up the other half to make sure that it was on the same level plane across as the other half that we did. So you want to use window align when you can, just to make sure that everything's aligned before you join your points. So the next step, we'll take the black arrow, hover over that drawing, and remember there's a gap in here between 2 points. We need to make sure they're joined. We're going to do a right click join function. And again, if at home, if your right click join function doesn't work, you can see my 2 points when I zoom in now have a line segment in it. I'm going to Command Z to undo. If by chance that right click join function didn't work, you can also do the manual function of taking the white arrow, clicking on one point at the end of the line segment, holding Shift key on your keyboard, and clicking on the other point at the end of the line segment. And you can see both my points here now are blue, and then you just do Command J, and that's just a more manual way of joining points. Okay, so now we actually have a full joined skirt shape. Even though it doesn't have a hem, that's what we want. So when you pull off with the black arrow, then you know you're joined because it pulled the whole skirt off at one segment. So this is our our full body shape without the waistband. So I'm going to pull it off for a second just to show you. I'm going to bring it back to where it was before. And we're going to draw the waistband now. So let me click on the waistband to show you the points. So you can see it's 4 points total. So I actually draw not as a half of a drawing, I draw it all the way across the body. I find it easier to do that than to draw a half a drawing. You get less points that way. So I started here across the body, and I went to here and I did a curve line. Then I did a straight line going down and all the way back over with a curve line, and then a straight line back up to join and connect. So I'm going to keep the skirt on here for a second because I need to reference that top part of the skirt for the bottom part of the waistband. This is where the waistband gets sewn into the body of the skirt. These two pattern pieces connect. So what I'm going to do is actually click on my skirt with the black arrow and do an object lock selection. I want to lock that before I start to draw my waistband drawing over top of it. Now I'm going to take my pen tool, making sure I only have a stroke color. And I'm going to start actually over here. Actually, I can start at the bottom. So let's start at bottom because we have a reference point. We're literally going to trace over top of this waistband. The top of the skirt. The bottom of the waistband over the top of the skirt. So take your pen tool, click one point, and go all the way over to the other end of the skirt. But you're going to click and you're going to hold and you're going to bend down your curve line until it literally is hovering over top of, and I'm actually going to change the color so you guys can see. So let me not make it green. Let me make it another color. There, I'll make it blue. And then you can actually see that my waistband, the start of my waistband is completely covering over the top part of my skirt, which was red. That's what I want to do. I want to follow that curve line exactly on top when I draw it. Now I'm going to take the pen tool and hover over that last point on the waistband seam. And then I'm going to just go straight up. Not straight up like this way, but straight up with a little bit of an angle here. And then I'm going to go all the way, all the way over to the other side of the skirt. And I'm going to click and hold and bend down. Again, a little bit of a curve line. Release the tool. And I want you to notice the curve line at the top of the waistband and the bottom of the waistband are the same. So they kind of use what you drew at the top, reference the bottom curve when you draw it. And now take the pen tool, hover over that last point until the minus sign appears, click on it, and then wait to hover over that last point until the little circle appears, or some of you at home might have an asterisk, but once it changes and something pops up, like a little symbol, like a circle, you click on that point, and that means you're getting ready to join your points together using the pen tool. So here's my waistband. You can see it's a little bit away from the body. That's fine. I'm not drawing my calves to be perfectly snug fit onto this croquis figure, which is a little bit on the super thin side, drawing it a little bit away, and that's fine. So I have a waistband drawn and a skirt drawn. So now remember we locked our skirt. We're going to go to Object Unlock All to release that skirt so we can pull it off again. So your waistband is a separate piece from your body or skirt. So change this back to red. Okay. So now that I have that skirt and the waistband together, I can actually object group them together. Object group, if you hover over the black arrow, you can put the two together so they won't be two separate pieces. They are two separate pieces, but they can at least be carried together. Okay, so now the next thing that we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to draw the hem. And the hem is gonna turn to a zigzag look like you see here, but first we draw just a one big curve line that goes the full width of the body of the skirt. So you can see it starts over from the left to the right, and you're just drawing one continuous curve line using the pen tool. So once you have that, make sure it's not joined. Do not join it to the skirt. You can see I have little gaps over here. I want to keep them. You want to make sure that you have the full width across, but you are not joined to the body of the skirt, because we need to turn that hem. This curve line you just drew is going to be called the bottom hem. We draw it as a loose piece to start because we're going to turn it into a zigzag detail later. So what you do next is you're actually going to create it as a zigzag detail like you see here, and that's after you do that, we're going to connect it to the body. So in order to do that, I'm just going to make a quick copy and paste for you to see, but once you have your one line, you don't need to copy and paste it. I have a pasted copy here just so I can show you how we're going to turn it into a zigzag hem. So click on it with the black arrow, and you're going to go to Effect up top, Effect, Distort, Effect, Distort, and Transform. There we go. Distort and Transform, and then click over to Zigzag. And you'll see automatically it should zigzag. If it didn't, it's because this box pops up and you don't have the preview box checked. So please, anytime you see boxes pop up and there's a word preview in the bottom left-hand corner, click on it, because that allows you to see any changes you make in this window. It allows you to see how it affects your stroke line in live time. So here you can see it's a zigzag. It's really, really big. So what I want is a look like this. So I'm pointing to kind of a look like that. So little bit smaller of a zigzag detail. So let's see what we can do here. I can also show you that the size is how tall it is. So let's take down the size and let's do the ridges per segment. Let's just start scrolling it over these little these little blue circles. Let's just scroll over, and then we'll reduce the size again. And you can see when I reduce the size, the height gets a little smaller. When I change the ridges per segment, scrolling over this little blue ball, you can see the amount of zigzags are more across. So until you have a look that you feel like looks pretty good in terms of it's a low profile zigzag, it's got enough zigzag details going all the way across, ridges per segment as they're called, and we already know that it's going to fit the width of the skirt. Once you have this kind of look here, hit OK. And I can't tell you the exact numbers. You're going to have to really play at home with those little scroll bars with the blue dot. So that's what our straight hem is going to become, a little zigzag hem like that. So I have that down here for you to look at. Once you've created that zigzag hem, you're going to do a copy paste. So Command C, Command V. Make sure you paste a copy of it and you have one here on reserve, because this one right here we're going to join to the actual skirt shape, but we're going to keep this one later on and turn it into top stitching like you can see here. So it's really important you paste that copy. Now we're going to get ready to join our bottom hem to the skirt. So you can see I still have it kind of away from the skirt. There's gaps here on the side, gaps here on the side. So we want to make sure that we click on it with the black arrow and kind of get it closer, but don't overlap it, because we want to have that gap so we can join these shapes. So let's just do a right click join here on, you can see now those two gaps are filled, and you can do a right click join over here, and that's now joined as well. And reference the manual way if the right click join function isn't isn't working for you. I showed that in the beginning of the tutorial. So you can tell that the line segments are connected because you can even click on with a white arrow. You can see all your points. What I want to make note here, and I'm zooming in really quick, is because it's sometimes when your points join, so something could look like that. We really want to make sure we have nice straight edges on here along this plane. So you want to make sure when it connects that you have a nice straight edge right here. So you don't have anything that looks like this or looks like that. You want to make sure that your edge is nice and flush. So this line is very continuous all the way down and nice and fluid and smooth at the sides. So that's, just be conscious of that when you join points, that you might want to zoom in on the areas where the points joined and take a look at how they look on the side of the skirt and make sure that they have a nice like continuous line and not bumping outward or inward. Okay, so once you have the pleated skirt joined, the pleated hem joined to the body, the next step is going to be here. We're going to skip ahead over to the next page of notes. So we're going to start drawing our pleats, which is really exciting. So that's the biggest highlight of this. You got your skirt shape done. And now you can turn some pleats in, you can make some pleats inside the skirt of the body of the skirt. So we're going to draw, oh, and here's our copy, by the way. I'll keep that, I'll reference that in a minute, but this is the copy of the zigzag hem you made a minute ago, so you'll come back to that in a moment. So first thing I want to make sure, I'm just going to reference this before we make pleats, is you're going to add some top stitching here at the bottom of the waist. Can see here, so that's going to be there. And if I click on my Windows stroke box, my stroke weight for the top stitching is 0.25. I have dash line checked, and my dash and gap are as you see here. So make sure that you add some top stitching there. And then just real quick, the copy of the zigzag hem you made, you're going to actually do the same thing. Windows stroke, 0.25 stroke weight, dash line check, 2 point and 1 point dash and gap. So make sure that you have that ready, but don't put it on top of the skirt yet, this stitched hem. Let's add that at the end. Now onto our pleats. So what I did is I actually just drew one stroke line here from the bottom of the waistband seam. This is the waistband seam right here. This solid stroke line is called the waistband seam. So I drew one subtle curve line from here all the way down to the hem, and notice where I intersect that first line. I put it right in the middle of what's called a ridge. So the bottom of the pleat kind of falls in the middle, and then the other pleat bounces up. So each one of these divots here, the one that divots down and the one that divots up, should have a pleat line that intersects with it. So the first one I drew was just right in that area, started at the waistband seam and made sure that I hit one of the divot points in the pleated line. And I just drew that as, I'm going to pull this off for a second to show you. Take the pen tool and remember, just remember, window layers, that you are always on layer 1 when you're drawing anything that pertains to your CAD, okay? So take the pen tool and make sure you got a no fill and a stroke color only, and we can turn all the colors to black in a moment, but I know you might still be working with a pop color, and that's okay for now. Take the pen tool and just click on the top of the bottom of the waistband seam, and then go all the way down here to where one of those ridges kind of they divot down. I want you to click on it, but I want you to click and hold, and I want you to bend upward. So when I'm bending upward, I'm pulling my hand down in a downward motion down my mouse pad, and I'm doing very subtle movements until I get a very subtle curve line, and then I can release. The goal is to have, it's probably going to look a little narrow. You can even move it over a little bit too with the white arrow, but the most important part is to have it intersect with the waistband seam, and then definitely intersect down here. Okay, so I have one, once I have one that I like and I can perfect it, and remember, you can always use the white arrow if you don't love the initial way your curve line looks. And remember, every curve line has a curve handle right here, this little blue handle that you can play with as well. and manipulate until you like the way that first pleat line looks. Once you have that, you're going to do a Command C, Command V, copy, paste, object, transform, reflect, reflect vertical, hit OK. And then you're going to put it right in the same place on the opposite side. So I'm going to delete that because I already have one here. So now the goal is to have 2 pleat lines, and let's check our stroke weight on this. So we have Windows stroke. We are at a 0.5 point stroke weight on these pleated lines. So please make sure you use that 0.5 stroke weight on both. Once you have that, now the next step is going to be to create the pleats to make it look repeated across the fabric. So you're going to select with the black arrow and hold shift both of the pleat lines only. And then you're going to use this is the blend tool. There's also a long way to get to it, object blend, which we're going to have to use in a minute. But here's the actual blend tool to get you started. It's right here in this toolbox. If you click on it, double click on it, and then go to spacing, specified steps, and we are going to count the number of divots at the hem to get the accurate number of steps needed. So what I mean by the divots is count all the up and down parts. So here's one. Let me just zoom in real quick. I'll come back to that in a second. Let's do a quick count because everybody's skirt is going to be a little bit different. Because everybody's pleated hem is a little bit different. So what I mean by counting the divots is you're counting every time the part of the pleated hem either angles downward or angles upward. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Don't count the ones on the end. I have 30 divots in my pleated hem. So that's going to be the number of specified steps. So general rule of thumb, I'm going to say 25 or more, but you should count the number of divots at your exact pleated hem to get your accurate steps. So let's go back for a second. I have 30. So keep that number in your head for whatever number you come up with. We'll go back, take the black arrow, hold shift, and select our 2 pleated lines. And we're going to go to the double click on the blend tool, go to specified steps, and I'm going to type in the number 30 because that's how many I need. And your number might be different, so do that count. Hit OK, and nothing happened. You're like, what happened? Because you have to go, unfortunately, the long way. You can't use the blend tool again. You have to go to Object, Blend, Make, and that's when it makes it. So the Object Blend tool is a 2-part operation. Clicking on here, indicating your specified steps, typing the number in, but either way, you always have to go Object Blend, Make in order for you actually to see anything repeat. So here's our pleated detail, and you can see it there. I have one next door to it, so I'm going to actually Command Z to undo that just so I can work with the one next door that already has the pleated lines. So here's my pleated lines, and the great thing is you can see it repeated, but the only thing that looks funny is look at the pleated lines intersecting in my waistband. That should not happen. It should look nice and clean like this, where all the pleats start at the bottom of the waistband seam. And then also look what happened to the repeat of the pleated lines at my bottom hem. They're not touching the bottom hem. You should see this part of the skirt right here. You see every pleat line touching the little divots inside the bottom pleated hem. So basically the Object Blend Make tool does about 90% of the work for you in terms of making a pleated look. There is a part that you do have to do manual to fix and clean up the top and also make sure you connect the bottom. So the next step would be, after you do the Object Blend Make, is to do an Object Expand. So Object Expand, and the expand box pops up, fill and stroke are checked, hit OK. And basically all that did was create each individual stroke line as its own shape with points that you can move down and manipulate. So when it wasn't the the pleats lines expanded, now you have to do a little bit of a manual detail where you're going to take the white arrow and you're going to take every individual pleat line at the very bottom and click on the point that belongs at the bottom and just move them to meet the divots that are pointed downwards, the ones that are pointing upward. You can see that I'm pulling it down only by the end point of that pleat line. I'm not touching the ones up here. I'm only touching the ones down here. I'm clicking on it and then I'm pulling them down individually. And I'm making them touch the divots in the hem. So you can see I started some over here, so there's only just a few more left here. So I'm just going to pull these down again to meet all the divots in the hem, and you get the idea. So the next part of what you're going to have to do to clean up this top part here is you're going to click on all the pleated details, all the pleated lines, and you're going to do an object arrange send to back. Now it might not have done anything because the next thing is you're going to click on your waistband and click on it with the white arrow, and you're going to check your fill box. Your fill box should have a white fill color in it, and it doesn't. Probably doesn't because I didn't ask you to put that in. So when you click on the fill box, maybe window color pops up. If it doesn't, go to window color because that's where our black and white chip is. Click on the white chip in there, and the white fill now should be in your fill box, and you should see your waistband is now filled with white, and all those details, I'm just going to step back for a second right here. This is where we were. All the little pleated lines that were going into the waistband are now covered up because now the waistband is filled with white. If you lost your top stitching when you did that, all you have to do, because sometimes the top stitching might disappear in the back, so I'm just going to do an object arrange send to back so you can see if that happened to you when you were at home. Just click on your waistband and go object arrange send to back, and then click on your pleat lines and do object arrange send to back again. So you're literally just sending everything behind everything so that your top stitching reappears. So it's never hidden, I mean never gone and never deleted. It's just it hid behind the waistband when it got filled with white. So sometimes when things disappear, they don't ever really disappear. You just have to click on them and do an object arrange send to back and see if things magically appear, because they still are there. They just might be hiding underneath that shape now that it's filled with white. So that cleaned up the top part, as you can see here. That's cleaned up, and then you're going to connect all your pleat lines at the bottom hem with using the white arrow individually. So that's your part of your manual work you have to do. Now the next step is going to be to attach your bottom hem. So remember, we have our bottom hem here with stitching. Hopefully you turned it into stitching, and you're going to add that to your hemline. So we'll put it right above. Just move it with the black arrow, move it right above the bottom hem. And the perfect thing is, because you copied and pasted earlier, you copied and pasted those two that copy the hem, it's the exact same hemline now with just stitching. So it fits perfectly, which is great. So now what you're going to do is, if you wanted to make the pleat lines look a little, if you can notice in my drawing, the pleat lines look a little thicker of a stroke, and they start to get a little bit thinner and more faint at the bottom. That gives a little bit more of an accurate look to the way the fabric kind of folds, because pleats are just like folded details in the fabric. So if you want to make this thick and thin look for these pleat lines, you're going to click on your pleat lines and you're going to go to window stroke. I encourage everybody to play with this. Window stroke, because we haven't used this yet. And make sure your window stroke box is always fully extended, so there's a ton of tools in here. You're going to go down to the word profile. We haven't used this yet. Go to profile, and this is the tool right here with profile number 4. So you're going to select that, and when you select that, you're going to notice that what happens here is what I have here, where you have thicker stroke lines at the top that go down to a thinner look at the bottom. So that's a great look for this pleated skirt. Once you've done, also if you wanted to create, this is just an option. If you wanted to create a look like this, so let me just set it up and zoom in for you to see. All I did was, this is called a stepped pleat, so it has a little bit more of a variation where it can show you that the fabric folds a little bit more closer together. So if you wanted to do something like that, all you would have to do is just copy and paste your existing pleat lines, Command C, Command V, copy and paste them, and then just bring them over and have them line up right next door to the existing pleat lines. And you can see they still start at the waistband seam, go all the way down. If you wanted a pleated look like that, that's what you would have to do there. But please make sure you do your profile stroke setting before you do that other look. But either way is acceptable. Your pleat line's looking like this, or if you wanted to do that stepped pleated look, that's another option for your skirt. So once you have your front view of your skirt done, you're going to hover over at the black arrow. You'll do an object group on it when you have that to make your front view. And then you're going to copy and paste it, Command C, Command V, because we always use our front view CADs to make our back views. So keep one copy that's grouped as your front view, and then copy and paste it and give me another copy so that you can start working on the back view. So here's my pasted copy over here. I have one completed one here we can use as reference. So copy and paste it, and then what you're going to do is you are going to add just three things actually, to the skirt that's going to make it a little bit different on the back view than it is on the front. You're going to add one long stroke line all the way down, perfectly straight. That's going to be called our center back seam line. CB is abbreviation for center back. And then I'm going to zoom in real close so you can see. And then we're going to add in a little invisible zipper pull. This is how the skirt gets open from the top and opens up, and then you're going to add a little bar tack stitch right there, and this is basically how the skirt functions. You zip it all the way down, and the zipper stops right here, and the whole top part of the skirt opens up so that the woman can get it over her waist. So that's really important that we always think about the functionality of our CAD drawings, because clothing at the end of the day has to function. So basically what I want to do now is this is my front view copy. I'm going to take the pen tool, make sure I have a no fill and only a stroke color. And I'm going to click one point all the way down, and then I'm going to hold shift, or I might not actually hold shift. I'm just going to go all the way down. If it looks like it's asking you to connect, see the little circle that's popping up and it wants to join onto something, don't let it. So just click down. I don't want you to join. This center back seam line should not be joined onto any other line. So now I'm actually going to click and move it to where it should be intersecting with one of the divots in the bottom pleated hem. So I just want to make sure it's a loose piece. So I really want to make sure if the pen tool was asking you to join it when you saw that little circle up here, don't let it do that. So here's my center back seam. It's a loose piece. I can pull off the body shape very easily. And then what I need to do is add a little bar tack stitch. Let me just zoom in again. A little bar tack stitch here, which is just a little tiny stroke. I have everything grouped there, so I'll ungroup that so you can see. And then a little zipper, this is invisible zipper slider right there to kind of pull down the zipper. So let's do the bar tack first. I'm going to zoom in. I'm zooming using the zoom tool to zoom in on my skirt. I'm going to take the pen tool now, and I'm going to picture this is the back view. So there's actually a butt here. So you picture where that is, and you say, okay, I think the zipper should stop midway in the middle of the buttocks. So I'm just going to click one point and hold shift to click another point and make a tiny little stroke line that's a horizontal stroke line across, and make sure to reference it on the upper part of the body. So if her butt is down here, if the fullest part of her butt is over here, you're going to make a little bar tack slightly above it. This is going to determine the length of the zipper that the woman gets to open up her skirt. Now to get that little invisible zipper slider, you're going to go to this page, which is the clip files for fashion clip files for CADing. That's available in our Canvas classroom under modules and under general CADing info extra files to reference. Here it is. Click on it, download it. If you haven't saved it to your computer already, please do. It's a great file to have and hold forever. You're going to zoom in on the left side where everything's to scale. And there's one that I marked in here that's specifically called invisible zipper. That's what you're going to click on with the black arrow. You're going to copy it, Command C, and go back to your pleated skirt CAD and do a Command V in this window, and you're going to paste it and bring it up to where it should be at the very top of the waistband. And then that's where you're going to have it. Right there. And it should already be to scale, so it should be good. You shouldn't have to scale it. And then once the back view is done, hover over it with the black arrow and do an object group, because we want to make sure our CADs are always grouped. So now I have a front view and a back view that's grouped. I'm bringing it over to my CAD template, and I'm going to make sure it's lined up above the words front view, CAD, back view. Here's our CAD number 3 description, pleated skirt. Make sure you date the bottom of your CAD template always. So the next step is going to be to do a zoom view to get an up close view of the pleats. Watch a separate tutorial for that.